Ash Grove. KSPR's Lauren Motter joins us live from Western Greene County with the latest. Lauren?
Well, Lee, we all know it's dry, but I just want to show you how dry it actually is out in these fields. If I just take a clump of grass right here, you can see how easy it is for it to crumble and disappear in my hands. And firefighters say it's that reason, and that's why all it takes is one little spark for something like that to happen.
It is so tender dry right now that it's just like gasoline on the road.
Firefighters say it was almost like a perfect storm.
It had just went out of control way over here.
The wind, dry conditions, and height of the grass forced this fire in Ash Grove to move fast.
When you got taller grass and that gets ahead of you, it takes a minute to get it back under control.
It took only minutes for the field to turn from green to fiery red.
We had about 4-foot flames on this fire, possibly 6 in some spots.
The owner of the land says all she remembers is seeing black smoke.
It was really pretty scary because all of our equipment's up here, tractors, combines, well, everything we have is up here at the barn.
Fire crews from all over Greene County did what they could to get the flames under control.
We're trying to water down this fence row, make sure there's nothing still burning.
It's taken everybody. We've had a lot of departments and a lot of help, so it's taken a lot of people to get it under control.
Well, I've used about 100 gallons or so.
43 command, Ash Grove Rescue.
While firefighters were working hard,
we've been watering for the past hour and a half.
Residents across the street were doing what they could to prepare for the worst. Skylar Pyle and his dad Stan say the flames were so high they were worried the fire would jump the road.
Everybody around here knows that it could happen to them.
The conservation, if you come get it down.
Yeah, she chimneyed out.
Incident Commander Dwayne Burke says crews working well together kept the fire from growing even more.
This time right now it's so dry that, you know, we're all on standby and ready to respond at a moment's notice.
Fire crews were called back out to this fire just a couple of hours ago to put out some hot spots that flared back up because it did get so much hotter this afternoon. The owner of the land says he's very thankful that the fire is out, but he's still a little worried. He has hundreds of hay bales that aren't too far away from where this fire started. Lee.
Hopefully it's out for good. Thanks, Lauren. And crews say the fire...
At the Smokers Outlet in Bolivar,
there's 97 and 2, thanks.
Customers become regulars.
Thanks.
Debbie Gioshis thought the scariest thing she'd been through happened last fall.
In October here, I got held up at gunpoint.
That was until Thursday morning.
He was blue and kind of purple.
When she was at Kaplinger Dam.
It's pretty hard, I mean, to see that.
Enjoying her favorite pastime.
We were just fishing and I seen the man sitting out there on the... It's really hard.
The man was standing on this ledge when he fell head first. And if you take a listen, you can hear how loud it is out here. Debbie says if it wasn't for her boyfriend seeing the man fall, who knows how long it would have been before help arrived.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that.
A bait shop owner immediately called 911.
I mean, I could see the blood all in the water.
Gioshis says when she got down to Daryl Walters, he wasn't breathing, so she started CPR.
I don't even know if I did it right. I was so nervous. He was breathing, and I was glad.
But he stopped breathing again, so she continued CPR and comforted him until help arrived.
I just kept talking to him and letting him know that he wasn't alone, and I kept telling him, you know, it's a long ways to Kaplinger. They'll be here, I promise. A promise that Walter's son Daryl is relieved she kept.
If she weren't there and no one else was there, we'd be talking about a whole different subject right now.
Walters says his dad suffered major head injuries.
Just above his eyebrow, to the very back of his skull, down to his neck. He was scalped.
But it could have been much worse if Gioshis would have picked a different spot to fish.
For my dad's good fortune, she was there.
It touched me, you know, like, to have someone almost die like that was, and to witness it, and I just did what I thought I should do. You do what you can for somebody.
Guatemalan birth mother's parental rights earlier today. This was a case we've been following for the past couple of years. KSPR's Lauren Motter joins us live outside the Greene County Juvenile Center with that story. Lauren?
Well, earlier today, it took only a couple of minutes inside that building for the judge to come to that decision. And Joe, like you said, this case has been going on for multiple years. It went all the way up to the Missouri Supreme Court before coming back down to Greene County. And after today's decision, the birth mother's attorney says it's more than likely going to go back up on appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, the person that you're looking at right now, he's the person at the center of this case. He's 5-year-old boy Carlos Jamison. Back in 2007, his birth mother, Encarnacion Bael Romero, was arrested at a poultry processing plant for being in the country illegally. The boy was adopted by Melinda and Seth Mosier of Carthage after a judge terminated her rights and said he'd be better off with the Mosiers. The Mosiers' attorney did not want to speak to us on camera today, but says the adoption is finalized. Romero's attorney had this to say following today's decision.
We're going to study the opinion and then you know, speak with her about the next step and whether to appeal.
The Mosiers walked hand in hand into the courtroom today. Melinda said they did not want to comment before the decision, and the couple quietly left the courtroom after the decision was made. Their attorney, Joe Hensley, did talk to us on the phone this afternoon. He said the couple is extremely pleased with the judge's decision, and they are very happy that this case is over with. Now, Wood says he will likely appeal the case. Typically, it would have to go to the State Court of Appeals, but Wood says he's going to ask for it to go straight to the Supreme Court. Joe.
It's a tough case either way. Thanks, Lauren. Romero, a decision in a lengthy custody battle involving an Ozarks couple and an illegal immigrant from Guatemala.
At the center of this battle is a 5-year-old boy who, after today's ruling, will now live with his adoptive family in Carthage. KSPR's Lauren Motter joins us live from the Greene County Juvenile Center with the latest. Lauren?
Well, Lee, earlier today, the attorney for the birth mother, Encarnacion Bael Romero, stood right over there and said he was disappointed with today's ruling. And now it's unclear if Romero will ever see her 5-year-old son again.
The adoption would proceed with the Mosiers.
It took only a few minutes for the life of Encarnacion Bael Romero to change forever.
Let's just go on. She's too upset.
She had nothing to say, only tears to show how she felt after Greene County Judge David Jones made his decision.
The judge has terminated her parental rights on the grounds of abandonment.
This isn't the first time a judge has made this decision. The case dates back 5 years with a long list of events that led to Wednesday's ruling. In May of 2007, Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers raided George's, a poultry processing plant. Romero and about 100 other undocumented workers were arrested. At that time, her son, Carlos Jamison, was barely a year old. Melinda and Seth Mosier of Carthage adopted Carlos in 2008 after a judge ruled he would be better off with the couple than with his birth mother because she is an illegal immigrant. Here's what Romero had to say to ABC News about the case earlier this year.
I start crying and get sad because he's not with me and I need him to be with me.
Jasper County Judge David Daly terminated her parental rights, saying, quote, illegally smuggling herself into the country is not a lifestyle that can provide any stability for the child. He told ABC News he stands by his decision.
Obviously, I thought the judgment was fair when I issued the judgment, yes.
Romero challenged the adoption and the case went to the Missouri Supreme Court. The court ruled Judge Daly overstepped his authority and sent the case back down to be retried. The case was then moved to Greene County.
It was a difficult situation for everybody involved, and I have to say that Mr. and Mrs. Mosier and their attorney were very, very nice this morning.
The Mosiers walked into court hand in hand with no attorney at their side.
No, thank you.
They made no comment before the decision was made and quietly left the courtroom after they were granted custody. Their attorney did not want to speak on camera, but tells us they are extremely pleased and happy to have the case over with.
Joe Hensley, the Mosiers attorney, says after today's decision, the adoption was finalized. And he said now that this is past them, he says he's going to speak with the Mosiers to see if there is any chance that they might grant some kind of visitation for Romero. As for Romero's attorney, Curtis Woods, he says he is likely to appeal this case. He says typically in cases like this, it goes to the State Court of Appeals, but he would like to ask for it to go straight to the Missouri Supreme Court. Lee.
Oh, very messy situation. Thanks, Lauren. Police, they could get arrested if they don't. KSPR's Lauren Motter joins us live in our studio with more. Lauren?
Well, Lee, if you take a look at the map behind me, you'll see exactly where this camp is. It's just northeast of Kearney and Glenstone in that wooded area. It's an established camp on private property, and some people have been living there on and off for years. But now Springfield police say those living there are trespassing and need to get out.
Whenever I needed a place to go, this was always a safe place.
Katie McLaren is one of a dozen homeless people who found a home inside these woods in Springfield.
It's a Christian community. Everybody here is good and kind and do everything we can to help each other.
But now they're packing their belongings.
The old owner passed away and his son took over. And his son didn't want us out here.
And are being forced by police.
They came in and they took everything.
To get out.
We're angry because it's like us coming to your home and booting you out with no notice.
This isn't the first time police have visited this camp, but calls to the police station.
They were concerned that there was a spike in crime.
Made this visit different.
In this case, it's a matter of us repeatedly interacting with them and also with the community surrounding them, the business owners. We took action.
Corporal Matt Brown says officers went to the camp on Wednesday and gave people living there 24 hours to leave. Many of them didn't listen.
We arrested 18 individuals. 17 of the 18 had warrants for their arrest already.
At the camp, people say they need more time.
We have nothing. We have no family. I'm from North Carolina. Her and my dog and my cat are the only family I've got.
We're just hoping someone's going to help.
One Springfield church is doing just that.
We got them a mini storage and everything, putting everything in there until we can find somewhere for them to go.
But it still doesn't help answer the question everyone at this camp is asking.
We don't know what we're going to do.
Police tell us everyone was supposed to be out of the camp by last night. Those living in the camp tell me an officer gave them until Monday at noon to leave the property. If officers catch anyone living at the camp in the future, they could be issued a summons or be arrested for trespassing. Lee?
All right, thanks, Lauren.
If you look behind me, you can still see some of the damage that the fire left behind. Over my right shoulder, you can actually see a little bit of smoke still coming from the inside of the house. But 12 hours ago, it was a different story. Where we're standing right now, you wouldn't be able to see the house because the smoke was so intense. And the fire was also intense. And firefighters say that's why it was too late for them to save the man who was found in the back bedroom. Nearly 40 firefighters from 3 different departments were set to fight the blaze. It started around 4 this morning at a house off of Highway 376 that's just west of Branson. One neighbor who lives in a camper on the property says when he woke up, help had already arrived, and it was too late to save his friend.
I looked in there and I couldn't get in the house, couldn't get to Dan or nothing. The house was up in flames, and there just wasn't much I could do. Just stay back out of the way and let the
Firefighters say there were working smoke detectors in the house at the time of the blaze. Now, even though the house is off of a highway, it's actually very secluded. Firefighters say they don't know how long the fire was burning before a passerby actually called 911 and help arrived at this house. Back to you.
All right, thanks for that live report, Lauren. The Taney County City. KSPR's Lauren Motter joins us live now from west of Branson with more on this investigation. Lauren?
Joe, we're a little bit closer to the house so you can actually see most of the damage that was left behind. You can see the burned remains of this house is actually still smoking on the inside. But to show you how intense it is, I want you to look up at that tree. You can see the flames were high enough to actually burn the leaves on the top of that tree. And unfortunately for the family next door, the fire took a good friend's life.
Well, I've never seen nothing like that.
Richard Potter says he still can't believe the house he spent so much time in with his good friend is now rubble.
Bedrooms was over here, the living room was over here, and the kitchen was in the middle.
But walking alongside the damage doesn't compare to the hurt.
Anything I needed, he was there to help me do it.
Potter lives in a camper on the house's property. He says the owner of the house let him stay there as long as he helped him take care of the place.
He was in pretty bad health. He had sugar diabetes and problems with his legs, and he didn't get around very well, so I kind of helped him out, and he kind of helped me out.
But this morning, Potter says he felt helpless.
I looked in there, and I couldn't get in the house, couldn't get to Dan or nothing.
35 firefighters from 3 different departments were called to fight the house fire off of Highway 376. Western Taney County Fire Chief Chris Barnett says when they arrived, it was apparent someone was inside.
This house sits a little ways off the road, so the road is a little further away. And 376 highway is not that well traveled that early in the morning. So I'm sure this fire was probably burning rather well before anybody ever saw that.
Potter says all he remembers is seeing the flames and all the help that arrived.
That was all full of trucks, rolled down through there. They had a great big line going way down there around the curve.
He says now he needs to find a new place to live, but more importantly, some closure.
He's helped a lot of people out, and you just can't find a better person than he was.
Firefighters say there was only one body found inside the home, and they expect to use dental records or DNA to give a positive ID on the body. The coroner who I talked to earlier today says those results could take up to a week to get back. Joe.
All right, thanks for that report, Lauren. Fire investigators say
easy labor and delivery, but as KSPR's Lauren Motter explains, the baby had a very different plan.
If you look closely at the birth certificate behind me, you'll see 2 names on the attending physician line. The first name is the dad who helped deliver his daughter. But unlike the other 3 kids in the family, she wasn't born in the hospital room.
And let's just do a credit and get it out of here.
On Highway 64,
Thank you.
between Wheatland and Bolivar, the hustle and bustle at the Bullseye gas station in Pittsburgh.
Let me get a second to catch up here.
Is the norm this time of year.
Oh, I've got to pump 3.
We're starting to get a lot of folks coming up to the lake.
Karen Vebrock says Thursday morning was just like any other.
I noticed the trucks, but didn't really know what was going on.
Until she looked out the window.
Those are things that you don't hear of all the time.
And in the parking lot,
I told him, I was like, she's coming, you're gonna have to pull over.
were the Chryslers in an unexpected situation.
He barely got stopped when she started coming out.
Yep, in the middle of the gas station parking lot.
Took my shirt off and I had to pretty much catch the baby while it was sliding out.
A 6-pound, 15-ounce miracle came into the world.
After he handed her to me, after he wrapped her back up in his shirt and handed her to me, I was like, okay, I just had a kid in the middle of a parking lot. Nice.
Zelda Chrysler says they were on the way to the hospital to deliver, but her bundle of joy had a different target in mind.
It was unreal. It was like the whole, something you would be watching on TV and not really thinking it'd be happening to you.
Chrysler says one day later, what actually happened still hasn't settled in.
I was kind of nervous, but at the same time, it was like, okay, let's just get this done, make sure she's okay, and then we can freak out later.
50. And it hasn't calmed down over at the gas station either.
We've had a lot more questions about it today.
With one particular question in mind.
The big question is, was they going to name her Bullseye?
If it would have been Casey, she probably wouldn't have been named Casey, but no, it was Bullseye, so no.
The Chryslers say Bullseye might become a nickname, but their daughter is officially named Haley Ray. Other than needing a little extra oxygen, baby Haley is 100% healthy, and so is her mom. First responders arrived minutes after she was born to get the family to the hospital. Back to you.
Good.
Lee Mayor's son, Lee King, says it was one phone call from his mom that turned his life upside down. Not only did he find out his dad has allegedly been on the run for 2 decades, King found out he has a different last name. He's 2 years older than he thought, and he was born in the United Kingdom, a few years before this alleged crime spree started.
My dad is one of the nicest guys you'll meet. He's only ever done what's good for us.
An emotional Lee King says the man he knows as his father
I don't want anybody to see him in a bad light for something he did 20 years ago.
wouldn't commit this crime.
There's no way that he would do this by choice. He wouldn't just do it to do it. I mean, he doesn't commit crimes. I mean, he's the one that gets me out of trouble.
King says his family moved around a lot, but Mayor told him it was because of his job. King says he never questioned that answer.
It is very, very hard.
Mayor was just starting his 20th year on the run when the Ozark Police Department got a tip Wednesday morning and found Mayor hiding out in this apartment in Ozark.
Somebody was going to steal $1 million. I wouldn't expect him to be in Ozark, Missouri, right across the street from me.
Neighbors say Mayor was living with his wife Sarah and using the alias Mike Mayer. Mike worked for Suddenlink Cable. Sarah worked for the apartment complex.
She was kind of quiet, and she really didn't say much about where she came from or anything like that.
Mayer, better known as just the husband to many in the neighborhood, stayed to himself.
Never really saw the husband. He was just kind of in and out really in the Suddenlink truck, you know. That's all I saw of him.
And many were surprised to hear an alleged fugitive was living here.
He was a good guy.
King says fugitive or not, he's trying his best to put his dad in a positive light.
Carry on with our lives and try to pick up the pieces.
King says his mom and his younger brother all did not know his father's alleged secret. He also wasn't home at the time of Mayer's arrest. He says his parents had lived in Missouri for the past 2 years. Lee.
Lauren, thank you. KSBR's Lauren Motter is live at the scene where the arrest took place. And Lauren, what is the latest on the investigation at this hour?
Well, Lee, that fugitive Edward Mayer is now in federal custody on immigration charges. But for the past year and a half, he's lived in these apartments behind me under the alias Mike Mayer, married to his wife Sarah, living with 2 sons. Now, Mayer is a suspect in a 1993 bank robbery in the United Kingdom where he allegedly stole 1 million pounds. That equals $1.5 million. Today, his 20 years on the run ended thanks to a tip into the Ozark Police Department. The FBI was called and they arrested Mayer at his apartment in the Fremont Hills townhouses in Ozark. According to neighbors, Mayer was working for a local cable company, Suddenlink, and he installed cable there. Neighbors say he kept to himself. His wife Sarah worked for the apartment complex, but most only knew him as the husband.
I saw him have an altercation with a guy the police were after that it almost came to blows, and he was clearly high. Not the husband, but the other guy. And that's pretty much all I saw of him other than him hopping in his truck to leave every day.
The FBI has been in touch with British authorities to confirm with Interpol whether or not Mayer has outstanding warrants from the United Kingdom. But for now, like I said earlier, he is being held in Springfield on those administrative immigration charges. Lee.
All right, Lauren, thank you so much. And we'll have more details about the Missouri Hotel caught fire this morning.
KSBR's Lauren Motter joins us live from one of the temporary shelters at the Dayspring Worship Center on North Prospect in Springfield with more. How many are expected to move into that shelter tonight, Lauren?
Well, Joe, this shelter can hold up to 100 people. They expect about 60 to be here. And as you can see behind me, they have 45 cots ready for anybody who lived at the Missouri Hotel who will temporarily live here. That other shelter you talked about is at Cox North, and 35 families are expected to stay there. This shelter just opened minutes ago, and people are already starting to trickle in. And they could be here for weeks, and it could be months until the Missouri Hotel is back open again.
I just woke up by some people beating on the doors. Get out, get out!
As smoke filled the Missouri Hotel early Friday morning,
everything was just so chaotic.
Worry now fills the minds of some of the 185 residents left without a place to stay.
I worry about being worried.
I got another pair of shoes.
Danica Sullins was in the basement when she smelled smoke. She grabbed what she could.
Teddy bear, scarf, bathroom stuff.
Before fleeing the building.
Definitely one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me.
Thanks to the help of the Crimson House Church, Sullins has a place to stay warm for the day. So does Kimberly Harris.
I could have probably some places to go, probably not permanent.
Everyone's already full. Now we have this problem where the largest shelter in town is shut down because of a fire.
The CEO of The Kitchen, Rory Orgeron, which oversees the Missouri Hotel, says they're looking at the situation in 2 ways: what needs to be done immediately and what needs to be done down the line. They do have insurance, but the cost to open back up is something Orgeron says he has to focus on.
We ended the year last year short of what our goal was, so we were kind of looking at some ways that we can be able to maybe cut some expenses this year, and so this is just adding an extra burden to it, but yeah, we'll get through it.
It's a very big inconvenience right now. It's a hassle. We'll get over it.
Residents say as hard as it is, they'll get through this too.
It's pretty scary, but kind of have to take it in stride. Another pair.
And some of the residents here could go back to the Missouri Hotel sooner than later. Most of the fire damage was contained on the 2nd floor. And Orgeron says anybody who lived on the 4th, the 3rd, or the 1st floor could go back maybe even next week, as long as the damage isn't too extensive. Joe.
All right, surely a lot of smoke and water damage in there, too. Thanks, Lauren, reporting live tonight. That fire talked to both dog owners and has more live in our studio tonight. Lauren?
Joe, the owner of the dogs that allegedly started the attack, Steve Kirk, says his dogs were not vicious, but could be protective at home. He says the 2 American Staffordshire Terriers had escaped from his backyard before, but he never thought anything like this would happen.
I wasn't just scared about them, I was scared they were going to jump out at us.
Brittany Frias says her husband first saw the attack taking place in her backyard.
He had turned around because he heard all the dogs barking and saw them fly into the Chihuahua pen.
Frias says all she could do was call 911.
They started to attack the other dog. We knew they had already gotten one of them. I don't think I've ever been that intimidated ever.
According to a police report, the officers tried to stop the attack. The police chief says that the dogs posed a threat. When that happens, the protocol is to shoot.
When they got there, the dogs had started attacking the smaller dogs again. They lunged at the officer, and at which time the officer felt that the dogs needed to be put down.
I'm just sick to my stomach.
Steve Kirk was at work when the attack happened.
I heard these people talking about them, so I asked them, I said, did y'all see my dogs? And they said, yeah, they're down there, and the police shot them.
He says Sassy and Dozier were show dogs.
He was only 2 years old, and he was a very, very good dog. He was more fun than anything.
And he adds Sassy could live up to her name.
I mean, I'm not denying that's what she done, and that's just, she done it, and like I said, she don't, for some reason, and even her mom did not like other dogs.
But he says Dozier was a very good dog and wouldn't attack.
I do feel bad, but I ended up losing 2 dogs for, I shouldn't have. They shouldn't have shot him. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
She has spinal cord damage, but there's no way of telling how bad it is.
Frias says if it wasn't for police, her dogs Pancha and Poncho might not be running around her yard today. And she believes if it wasn't her dogs, it could have been someone else's.
If they were going to do that, you know, and be that aggressive to us, they were going to do it again, I'm sure.
According to Chief Wattoon, there are prior reports saying the dogs had tried to attack people. He adds the dogs were on a special watch by the vet. Kirk says his vet will agree with him that they were not vicious in nature. Joe.
Thanks, Lauren. The city.
She joins us now live with more. Lauren.
Lee, it's not every day you get to see someone hit by a truck recover so well. And it's not every day you get to see someone meet the person who helped save their life.
I understand that. Nobody ever wants to lose a child.
Jasmine Summers says it still feels like a dream.
He was laying there unconscious, and I thought he was dead.
Seeing her son Nathan awake in the hospital after being hit by a pickup.
He sustained a lot of cuts and abrasions, and he had a punctured lung, and he had a broken sternum, and he has a severe concussion.
And the family says it could have been a lot worse.
Thank God there were the Good Samaritans that were helping him.
Good Samaritans, like Staff Sergeant Dennis Chambers.
You don't get to pick when the moment calls.
Chambers was driving home when he saw Nathan get hit.
I started looking for any major contusions, checked his breathing, made sure that was working.
When I saw you last, you weren't in the best of shape.
And today, Nathan got a chance to say thank you for those actions.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised at that.
Thank you very much.
At our suggestion, Sergeant Chambers paid the family a visit.
I guarantee you.
And our cameras were there to capture
Thank you. Nice to meet you again.
the exclusive, heartwarming second meeting.
I'm just so glad that there are people out there. So glad that my son, anybody's kid out there.
A moment
Oh, not a problem. Anytime and every time.
that will stay in their minds forever.
Thank you very much. Very much.
As a father, I get it.
Thank you very much. So glad he's okay.
Thank you. Staff Sergeant Chambers wasn't the only person who stopped to help. The second person who ran up was a nurse. The third person was a paramedic. The Summers say once Nathan starts to eat again, he'll be able to go home, and they hope that is sometime tomorrow, Lee.
KSPR's Lauren Motter has more from outside the building.
The owner says he was working on bids to get the building torn down, and it was a race against time, and the building won. Neighbors we talked to say they weren't surprised to see this mess when they woke up in the morning.
I just ran outside and everybody's like, oh my gosh, the building fell.
Some neighbors thought it was just the weather.
We heard the thunder, but it kept crumbling.
But when the noise continued, neighbors knew it was the building.
We've been expecting this for quite a while.
Kelly Barnes has lived right next door to what is left of the vacant costume store for nearly 30 years. She says she's called and reported the building to the city a number of times.
There's been a crack from one end of the building all the way across the top to the other end on the corner, and it's been getting bigger and bigger.
An inspector came out weeks ago, but nothing was done to make the building safe until Wednesday morning.
We've had a couple of service requests on that building.
Springfield Building Development Director Chris Strauss says calls were made regarding the safety of the building, but inspectors did not see a problem.
At that point in time, there was nothing to indicate any form of imminent danger. with regard to the building.
Strauss says the age of the building combined with the heavy rain played a big part in the collapse. The owner, who did not want to talk on camera, says the basement foundation was in poor condition and also contributed.
You never know what those old buildings are going to do.
Barnes and other neighbors say they're relieved the building will now be torn down and that no one was hurt.
I'm kind of relieved that it went out to the street and not right towards my house, which I was concerned about.
Here's another reason why the owner says the building might have collapsed. When the building was built, they used clay and sand between the bricks, not cement. Add in 80+ years and the weather we've been seeing, and you'll get this collapse. In Springfield, Lauren Motter, KSPR News.